At our family's Christmas gathering, I was told, "You can eat in the vehicle." My brother's spouse, with a sly grin, added, "Why bother saving a chair for you?" I glanced around. Every other person had a place at the table, including my former wife, who had betrayed me financially. So, I grabbed my present, turned to my brother, and said, "Look beneath your dish." Then I walked out, closing the car door behind me. My mother called, my father rushed outside. Chapter 1. The excluded guest Christmas dinners in our family were always lively. The chatter mingled with the aroma of roasted turkey and fresh-baked cinnamon pastries filling the air. But that year, the warmth passed me by. I arrived carrying a modest gift bag, nothing lavish, just a heartfelt token for my brother, James, who was hosting for the first time in his new home. As I entered, my eyes fell on the long dining table, elegantly set for 12. Crystal goblets, polished cutlery, and every seat occupied. My brother's wife, Lena, greeted me with a smile that barely masked her disdain. "You can eat in the car," she said, her tone sugary but sharp. A few snickers echoed around the table. Even my ex-wife, Sarah, who had pilfered from me during our marriage and still owed me, sat comfortably between my parents, as if she belonged. Lena leaned toward James and murmured, loud enough for me to hear, "Why waste a seat on him?" I scanned the room slowly. Every pair of eyes avoided mine. Every chair was taken. I smiled, not out of joy, but because the plan I'd been crafting for 2 years had just found its perfect moment. I lifted my gift bag, stepped toward James, and said, "Check under your dish." Then I turned, left the house, and shut the car door behind me. Chapter 2. The revelation beneath. From the car, I could still see the dining room through the window. James furrowed his brow, shared a look with Lena, and cautiously lifted his plate. The room fell silent. Underneath was a plain envelope with his name in my handwriting. He opened it carefully, as if it were a delicate legal notice. As his eyes scanned the contents, his face paled. "What's this?" Lena asked, her voice tinged with nervous laughter. James didn't respond immediately. He kept reading, his hands trembling slightly. My father leaned over to glance at the papers, his expression hardening. My mother's eyes widened in disbelief. The envelope held copies of 2 years' worth of financial records, not mine, but James's. Attached was a detailed summary I'd compiled. Every unauthorized withdrawal, every questionable transfer from our late father's estate, every personal expense billed to the company we co-owned. Lena grabbed the papers, her face twisting as she read. "This can't be true," she muttered. But the figures were undeniable, backed by a notarized statement from our accountant on the final page. I hadn't just shared this with the dinner guests. Chapter 3. The first fractures. The yelling began before I even started the car. Lena's voice cut through the chilly night air, sharp and piercing. "You used the company funds for this house? For my necklace?" James tried to keep his tone low, but his anger broke through. "Don't pretend you didn't know." My mother's voice quivered. "That money was meant for all 3 of you boys after your father's passing. How could you take his portion?" She stopped, realizing her words. Sarah, my ex-wife, leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with malice. "So that's why he's been so generous lately?" The table turned into a battlefield of accusations. My father's fist hit the table. "You know he could have dragged you to court for this? You could face prison." That was my signal to leave. I pulled away slowly, the image of James standing at the table, head bowed, etched in my rearview mirror. What they didn't yet know, but would soon discover, was that I'd already sent the evidence to our company's board, the IRS, and our family attorney. The envelope under the plate? That was just the opening act. Chapter 4. The gift that kept delivering. By the time I reached home, my phone was buzzing relentlessly. First, a call from my mother, ignored. Then my father, ignored. Then the board chairman. I picked up that call. "We've received the documents," he said, his tone icy. "An emergency meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Will you be there?" "Wouldn't miss it," I replied. That night, I slept soundly, like a man who had set the final piece of a puzzle and knew it would unfold perfectly. The next morning, James arrived late to the boardroom, his face gaunt and eyes red. He didn't even reach his seat before the chairman slid the evidence across the table. "You diverted company funds for personal use. That's embezzlement. Per our bylaws, it's grounds for immediate termination as managing partner." James mumbled something about a misunderstanding, but the accountant, the one who'd signed the affidavit, sat in the corner, ready to clarify. Within 15 minutes, the vote was unanimous. James was removed. His accounts were frozen pending investigation. His company vehicle was reclaimed before he left the building. That evening, Lena texted me. Asterisk, I hope you're satisfied. You've destroyed us. Asterisk, I didn't respond. This wasn't about satisfaction. It was about justice being restored. Chapter 5. When the lights dimmed 2 days after the board meeting, the consequences deepened. James and Lena's grand mansion, the one they showcased in every holiday card, went dark. No lights, no glow. Their mortgage lender had demanded early repayment, citing discrepancies in their income documentation. Lena's prized necklace, the one she'd flaunted at dinner, was returned to the jeweler. Word spread that she'd been in tears, claiming it was just a temporary exchange for cash. The social fallout was swift. Friends stopped responding to their calls. Their lavish winter gala guest list vanished overnight. Their country club membership? Suspended pending review. Even Sarah, my ex-wife who once relished my humiliation, stopped answering Lena's messages. Betrayal, it seems, loses its charm when you're tied to a sinking ship. James called me, his voice heavy, almost shattered. Why? You could have just talked to me. I let the silence linger before responding. Why steal from family, James? You could have just asked. He had no answer, just uneven breathing before the call ended. Chapter 6. The final holiday card. A week later, I sent out my yearly Christmas cards, but this time, only one went out, to James and Lena. Inside was a photograph. Me at the head of my dining table, surrounded by friends, my son by my side. The same festive dishes from my mother's table spread before us. Everyone smiling. Everyone with a seat. Beneath the photo, I wrote a brief note. Asterisk, Merry Christmas. There's always a place at my table for those who deserve it. Asterisk, I later heard that my parents had quietly distanced themselves from James after the truth emerged. Over coffee, my father said, "We should have stood up for you that night. You didn't deserve that." I didn't gloat. Some lessons don't need words. I didn't just reclaim my pride. I reclaimed my place in our family's story, not as the man sent to the car, not as the outcast, but as the one who showed them that no amount of holiday decorations or gifts can replace respect. That Christmas, it was the warmest I'd had in years. Was this justice well served? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you believe this story resonates, like it and share it with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Tales of Truth for more gripping stories of betrayal and reckoning. Because here, every deception meets its consequence, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay bold, stay true, and stay tuned.